Heyo, I'm Christy Rocha, podcast host and content creator, and I am thrilled to welcome you to the Inner Edit. This podcast is all about us, the creators, the storytellers, the visionaries, navigating the ever-changing online world. We are in this together, facing challenges unique to our craft, like burnout, setting boundaries, dealing with negativity, and that oh-so-familiar imposter syndrome. Join me as I chat with fellow creators, therapists, and coaches to explore collaborations, making connections, diving into creating conscious content, figuring out how to maximize our content output, and discovering that mindset magic that keeps us going. Whether you're a content creator seeking resources or just curious about the behind-the-scenes world of digital creators, the Inner Edit is your resource for personal and professional growth in the digital world. We're all going through the same things, so let's talk about it. Hit that subscribe button and welcome to the Inner Edit. Hello. All right, today I've got Mikaya Thurmond on the show today. Mikaya is a former television news anchor at WRAL. She is also a politician's daughter, Miss Georgia 2009, a University of Georgia and a Harvard graduate, and a TEDx speaker. And currently, Mikaya is an award-winning public relations strategist. Whew, but all of that is just what she is on paper. She is so much more than that, and I'm so excited for you to get to know her better today. Mikaya's superpower is authentic storytelling. It's what she lives and breathes, because she believes if we aren't being ourselves, then what's the point? So today, Mikaya and I are discussing being true to ourselves at work and at home, online and in real life. We're digging into the hustle culture that we both feel like we're kind of born into a bit, and talking through how to slow down because, as Mikaya says, happiness is enough. In order to do any of this and really believe that happiness is enough in our own lives, we have to prioritize our mental health, which starts by making intentional time for ourselves. Mikaya knows better than anyone that it isn't always easy, but she still tries to make it happen. Tune in today, keep listening to hear what strategies work for her and what might work for you. Let's meet Mikaya. Hey, Mikaya, so nice to meet you. Thanks for being here.
It is great to be with you. Love the podcast, and I'm really excited to just get to chat.
Thank you. Yes, we were just chatting off air in our mutual adoration for Jenna Altman. Shout out to Jenna.
It's a small world, but of course, even within mental health, all of the advocates and the people having those conversations tend to gravitate to each other. So not surprised at all that we both adore her.
Yeah, it's so true. I feel like I was actually saying this to someone about a week ago. I was at a networking event, and she pulled up her Instagram and she talked a lot about like motherhood, but with a mental health focus. And I said to her, I was like, it is always shocking to me how there are still people out there that talk about these topics that I don't know about, because you tend to like start to see the same people over and over again, and you run in the same circles. And it was actually kind of refreshing to be like, oh, there's somebody new, but it was also shocking. I'm like, how have you been out here doing this and I haven't seen you? It's wild.
It's an ever learning process, right, for all of us. And even when you think you know everything and have it all figured out, one single conversation can change the way you see your life and the way you see life as a whole, which is what I love with doing things like this with you, Christy.
Totally. All right. So let's get into your story for a bit. Tell us a little bit about your background and what actually kind of is the connection to us and what we're doing here today.
Awesome. Well, I am Mikaya Thurmond, born and raised in Atlanta, and I moved to Raleigh about 8 years ago. I was a news anchor for years, worked in both Chattanooga, and then came to Raleigh for a job anchoring. Did that for 7 years, and get this, the news started at 4:30 a.m. So for 7 years, I woke up at 3 a.m. That includes weekends. Okay. I was a weekend anchor for part of that time. So you can imagine, right, what that life experience was like. I hear all the time people saying, hey, I don't watch the news because of X, Y, or Z. Imagine reading the news, especially at that time, especially in the climate of the pandemic. all those things made me really look inwardly and say, okay, what does mental health mean to me? I immediately got to work. I launched a mental health pros on call. I got 600 people resources they need for free from mental health professionals who I had in the studio, all lined up. And they all volunteered their time to help people really get the answers they needed. But even for myself, I knew that I could be happier. I knew I could be more fulfilled. So I had to take actionable steps. It took me about a year. And now I'm doing public relations with a fantastic agency. And as a PR strategist, now representing a ton of clients in tech, venture capital, B2B, B2C storytelling, and really helping their messaging that is much more positive and really making an impact in a way that I want to be a part of.
Awesome. Okay. So let's go back. This pros on call. So these were experts that you brought in to the studio
Mhm.
for coworkers, or was this an on-air segment that you did?
So this was an on-air segment. So I worked at a station, WRAL TV in Raleigh, and Mental Health Pros on Call was an initiative just that I thought could be really helpful. We had been talking a lot about mental health, had a documentary coming out about it, and I said, okay, what is something actionable that we could do other than saying, wow, this is a huge problem.
Right.
What are we going to do about it?
Right.
So I just said, okay, I think we can partner with a North Carolina organization. There is a board there, and they agreed to volunteer their time.
Cool.
It was right after the pandemic, so folks were remote. I was in studio, and we just had an all-day telethon, old school. You can call in right now. The number is da da
Wow.
da, and you can get the help you need. People were able to call in and say, hey, my son needs help with this, or I'm about to go through a divorce, or whatever their thing was. And we can say, hey, these are 3 places that you can get the help you need. Okay, it needs to be inexpensive. You're dealing with issues with child support, whatever their need was. And over that time, over the course of a day, 600 people were referred out to clinics and mental health professionals that were able to help them.
Wow. That's amazing.
I'm passionate about this, but I think for all of us, it's number one, a journey to do it for ourselves, but then what do we do for others? Just like you doing this podcast. I
Right.
love that you said you started it for yourself.
Yeah.
And now look at you. So
Yeah.
the thousands of people that you're helping with every episode is just remarkable.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, it starts to feel like, at least for me, it was like, well, if I'm struggling with these things,
Mm,
other people are too. Even if it was only three other people, like those three other people have value and need help. So, yeah. Okay.
absolutely right.
So you were still an anchor when lockdown first happened, and then you go through the whole having to like do a show from your living room or from a room in your house?
Absolutely. And I have pictures to prove it. So get this, I was in a 1 bedroom apartment at the time. And I remember getting the call from my boss saying, hey, like we all thought, you're going to go home for a little bit. We're
Right.
going to set up a little studio. It'll be super fast. Everything's fine. Months pass and I end up spending a lot of the time. I think it was about 6 months working from home. Now I was the weekend anchor, so I would go in the studio on the weekends, but that was my only time to really be able to leave the building or to leave my apartment. What
Mhm.
was interesting is I didn't realize it at the time, but I got a dog who you might hear in this. I got a Yorkie named Tinkerbell because I realized the
Oh,
companionship wasn't there, but that we
yeah.
were all feeling the weight of that solitude and what that means for us. So yeah, it was a really important journey for me. But when I went back to work, there was that burst that we saw again, that second round of the pandemic. And my boss said, hey, we might need you to work from home again. And I was just like, heck no, no way, Jose.
Yeah.
You'll never have me back at home again.
Yeah.
But it was just because I understood the weight of it, being single at the time, living by yourself in an apartment. It was a lot.
Yeah. Did you find in that time certain strategies or that did work for you to cope? Like, what advice would you give for someone still working remote? A lot of people went remote and just haven't gone back. Like, there's pros and cons, but any advice or strategies that have worked for you or you've seen work for clients, colleagues?
So honestly, and you know this, it's an everyday journey. I'm still remote now. So since I've left TV news. I do PR remote from home. I
Okay.
still am living by myself in a townhouse. So if you say, what are my secrets? What are the things that I'm learning? One of the big things that I'm personally learning every single day is you've got to wake up with something that brings you joy.
Mm.
And for me, it's something different every day. It might be going to go grab tacos because I love tacos, or it might be working from a coffee shop or doing a puzzle, or it could be as simple as walking my dog. But that intentionality is the key to my happiness. I have to start my day rooted in my faith. And then from that, I have to watch my intake. Not a lot of things on TV, not a lot of scrolling,
Mm-hmm.
not FOMO, not my friends are doing this, but really setting my own goals and saying, okay, what can you do that makes you smile or recharges you? Because in my role, there's a lot of giving. And I think we all should ask ourselves, like every day, what did you do today, Christy, to make yourself happy? And it's got to be something just for you. And I think when you make a habit of that, I've been really successful at maintaining positive mental health.
Yeah. I think, and you tell me if you agree, I think where a lot of us get tripped up in that is that the idea of that often feels like it has to be something big, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
we think about a joy activity as being a night out or a movie, and it's like you might only have 15 minutes.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And I think it's got to be attainable. Like it
Yeah.
could be sneaking your favorite treat in the closet if you're a mom. Like, like, look, it's got to be something really small. I took myself, and this is a great example. So I was having like a really hectic week, super busy, but I love sushi and I love omakase, the idea of it, but I had never gone. And so I decide one day that when they opened, I was going to go get omakase. And for those who don't know, it's basically like a buffet of seafood. It's the most you could ever eat. It's like 14 different entrees, and not entrees, but pieces plus a
Mhm.
soup, plus like just endless food. So I show up and I'm like, hi, I want omakase. And the maitre d' told me, oh, is it just you? And I just felt that weight of like, you're here and
Right.
for something this grand and it's just you. And I'm like, yes, it is just
Good
me.
for you.
I had more joy in that hour and a half than I could have had going to take it to go and eating it at home because I wanted to see the sushi chef make it. So those are things that I have to sometimes fight society and say, yes, it's just me doing this grand event. And yes, I will sit here happily and enjoy it.
Yeah, good for you. It's fighting society, and as you were talking, I was also thinking about how much in my own experience I've had to fight myself on that. Like I could sit here for an hour and a half and enjoy the experience of this sushi, or I could take it to go and eat it in 20 minutes. And do I value my joy enough to give myself an hour and a half? Or do I just, like and that might be different day to day. Like you're saying, sometimes you might want to just do the 20 minutes because you have another joy activity coming. But the permission to say, you and your happiness today deserve this hour and a half versus 20-minute to go.
Yes. And it doesn't have to be expensive too. So the first thing that we say, we don't have time and then we can't afford it. That's the
Right.
other thing that I hear a lot from folks. I will tell you, and this is my boyfriend's going to hate that I'm sharing this, but I wanted to hear a concert. It was Kenny G coming to town. This was a couple weeks ago, but I was not going to spend the kind of money that I would spend at a Beyonce concert, frankly,
Right.
to go listen to Kenny G.
Right.
So instead, I was like, he was playing outside at a park. So I was like, babe, let's just go sit outside the concert in the park and listen
Yeah.
to it from here. We don't have to see the stage. And it felt silly, but for me, sitting in those lawn chairs was so recharging for just to be in the fresh air. Didn't have to spend a dime. I was just able to do it. So I think sometimes you have to get creative. I love gardens, like the big venues, and that you can go and just walk around and look at flowers.
Mhm.
Those kinds of things recharge me, and they're all free.
Yeah. Yeah. We have a couple of arboretums around here that
Yes.
I've had on my list to take like the kids to, just as like a place that's enclosed and
Mm-hmm.
we can walk. Yeah. No, it's true. It's true. You have to get creative. And that's also something that used to, I have worked on this, but used to be a block for me too. It was like I didn't want to put in those extra steps of
Mm.
being creative because even, this is more like pandemic times. It was like it required that even extra layer of creativity that just I was too burned out. Like I couldn't even wrap my head around it, you know? Um, I don't know, any personal, rituals or habits that you do to kind of keep your mindset and your headspace such that you're open and willing and happy to create that space for yourself and create the time and be intentional about it?
So I'm going to talk number one about like just the honesty part of it. You have to work for a place, especially if you,
Yeah.
so if you're working, you've got to work for a company that believes in mental health. I cannot say enough when people tell me, oh, I'm interviewing. I'm like, are you interviewing them? Are you
Hmm,
asking questions
a good
about
point.
PTO and time off and mental health days? And do your benefits include counseling? I'm a huge therapy pro person. And all of these things were questions that I asked as I was going from one job to the other, because it just simply interviewing and hoping that your job takes your mental health seriously, it is really difficult. One of the blessings I have is everyone at my office. And I mean, I truly mean this from top to bottom. If I said right now, I'm stressed out, everyone would say, take the day. Everyone would say, take the day. And
Amazing.
it'll get done tomorrow. So being surrounded by, whether it be your work, your coworkers, or even people in your family who you can communicate with and say, hey, this is too much. So a lot of it is, okay, when the problem does arise, because inevitably it will, we will
Hmm.
all have those moments where we're having a bad day, we're overwhelmed. Who can you call?
Yeah.
Who can you say, who can you tap in and say, you know what, you're on dinner tonight, partner, spouse, okay, you're on the kids today. Who can you tap in that's going to understand your language? And for me, I have to be surrounded by people, my parents, who understand my language. And I say, I've overbooked my calendar, which I'm guilty of all the time. And every single time they're like, once a quarter we get here. You just signed up for too much. You say yes, too much, too much. And now there's nothing left for yourself. So just them saying, okay, let's look at this list. What can we remove is amazing.
Mhm, mhm. Yeah, it's often we often are looking for what we can add to our life to make it easier when really we could probably start with what to take out. What can we remove?
What you just said is groundbreaking. Like we could
Yeah.
do a whole episode called What to Take Out,
Yeah.
because we all say, yeah, why do we do this? Right?
Yeah.
And then I think what we do is it's 4 weeks away. Yes. It's
Right.
6 weeks away. Yes. And then something actually important comes up and we don't know how to say no, that
Right.
it's like, okay, so you're not my friend if I can't tell you, no, I don't want to go. Why? Because I don't want to. What do you have to do instead? Absolutely nothing. I
Right.
just can't be out. I just can't give in this way. And I think that art of like taking away that, almost like whatever accessories you put on, take one thing off because it's always too much.
Yeah.
We should have that with our calendars. No
Yeah.
matter what's on your calendar for the week, take one thing off.
Yeah. No, I love that. That's good. I think and perhaps it's just because I tend to run in, very wellness focused, therapy minded circles. I do like to believe that that is changing, right? I feel like there are a lot of us out here now combating the hustle culture that a lot of us grew up with as being the gold standard for how to be successful in life. I think hopefully we will at some point start to outnumber those
Mm.
who still believe that it's hustle, hustle, hustle all day, don't stop, push through, like go to work even when you're sick, like all of those things. I don't know. Do you find the same? Do you feel like there are more and more people that are trying to change this narrative, or are we still kind of stuck in our ways?
So now you're knocking on my door. You're
Okay.
talking to someone that was raised in the whole hustle culture in an unhealthy way. So
Yeah.
I think at my busiest, and I look back at this time in my life, and I don't know how I did it. When I tell you my schedule, you're going to go, wowzers. So when I started in TV in Raleigh, I was a reporter. And that included either waking up at midnight for work, because there were two reporter shifts, or I was up at 2 a.m. Those were the only two options. And for 3 years, on top of working a third shift, I decided to go to Harvard to get my
Oh,
master's degree.
oh
And I
my
was in
God,
night school.
Mikaya. Oh
I
my
was in
God,
night
yeah.
school. I was like, I look at it, I graduated with a 4.0. By the way, I'm not a 4.0 kind of person. I say that like my parents are shocked because like my GPA in high school and undergrad was rather low, but they're like, how did you get a 4.0? And I didn't leave the house. I remember, and this is my truth, my beginning of me recognizing mental health. I had blackout curtains because I had to sleep during the day, but I realized I never opened them for 3 years.
Wow. Yeah.
3 years, didn't open the curtains. My mom would physically fly into Raleigh. She was in Atlanta and have to do my grocery shopping because
Mm.
you can only imagine you didn't have time. I was having to fly up to Cambridge for some immersive
Oh
classes
my
on top of
gosh.
this. And even when I graduated in 2018, so that was 2015 to 2018, I don't know. I don't remember anything. I don't remember being good at anything else. I don't remember being a friend. I don't think I went to a single party. I don't think I went to a single event with friends.
Yeah.
You physically couldn't have. So that hustle culture, I don't know why I'm struggling with that word, but it was so ingrained in who I was
Hmm.
that I had to deprogram myself. To this day, I'm deprogramming
Yeah.
that perfectionism, that not only do you have to be on TV and work these hours, you got to go to Harvard and you got to graduate with a 4.0 and it's just, what's enough? What is
Yeah.
enough? And now happiness is enough. And that's a harder journey than graduating with a 4.0. I
Totally.
guarantee
Yeah.
you that.
Yeah, no, it totally is. I totally agree because I feel like for me the hard part is having to reevaluate every so often what my definition of happiness is, right? Like you understand that going to Harvard and getting a 4.0, that is a standard that's not changing. If you're
Mhm.
shooting for that, that's never going away. It's never changing. But the season of life you're in, whatever's going on is going to dictate what your definition of happiness is, or better said, you have to alter sometimes what your definition of happiness is.
And I
That
hold people in my life accountable for that. And so
mm,
by that, I mean, because happiness changes, which is such a good point, something that I said made me happy 6 months ago doesn't make me happy now, and vice versa. Things I said I would
right.
never do, I love to do now. But the people around me, I have to make them aware of my happiness changing, that even though we met 10 years ago and this was my favorite thing to do, I don't enjoy that anymore. And in fact, it's draining for me. I had to have a crucial conversation with a friend, and I said, hey, we've been in contact for 2 months and I don't think you've ever asked me how I'm doing.
Mm,
That friend, someone that I've been a friend to, said I didn't even realize I was doing it. I
yeah.
didn't even realize that I was withdrawing from an account that I wasn't depositing to. And
Mm,
it's not that anybody's a bad person, but you just have to pause and say to yourself, okay, what was is not going to be. And
yeah.
this is what I need now in this particular point of my happiness journey.
Yeah. We're also touching on something that I know you talked about a little bit on the show with Jenna is having to separate our whether it's our job or our success or our productivity from our innate being and our personality. Like these things do not define our worth as human beings. How do you work on that for yourself? How do you start to nurture that and help yourself separate the two?
Oh, well, imagine this. I live in a city where everybody knows that I'm on TV, right? That's what they know. And
Mhm.
that's all I am to them.
Yeah.
And, and at
You're
best,
literally a TV personality.
yeah, that's it. That's all
Yeah.
I am. So then imagine this, you leave, right?
Mm,
And so when you say separating, a year ago, I separated and I
mm,
said in the most serious way that that's not who I am anymore. It's who I was. It was the best part of my life. Wouldn't have ever wanted to work for any other company because frankly, WRAL is just amazing and an incredible part of my journey. But still, it's not who I am. It is what I did. And so, me understanding that because I am a woman of faith, that God can use my same talents for storytelling, for messaging, to be a great volunteer, or to be a great PR strategist, or to be a great mom, or a great wife one day. All of those things I have to believe in, because the unhealthy part is when we say, I am an accountant, or I am only this thing. I'm only an author. I believe in the comma and I believe in the slash. I'm a writer, producer, philanthropist, artist, like all of these things. And when we say I can float and you can't contain me, oh my gosh, that's power, especially as women.
yeah. Yeah. And just for anyone listening, I think what you said is is powerful in that it might be God, it might be something else, but I think what it comes down to is that inward looking,
Mhm.
right? Like whether you're looking inward for religion, for spirit, for soul, for universe, like put whatever title, that's really what I'm trying to convey is put whatever name to it that you want that works for you and put whatever beliefs behind it
Yep.
work for you. It's really just knowing that you have everything in you that you need.
That's it. That's the piece at Harvard. So I studied the other thing was religions of the world. So I am a
Very
Christian,
cool.
that,
Yeah.
but I love religion. Like I love everything. I have books in my on my bookshelf just about
That's cool.
everything
Yeah.
because and I believe that you've got to be grounded in something, right?
Mhm.
This world's too hard. It's
Mhm.
too impossible to not believe that there's something that is pulling you somewhere. It's
Mhm.
just, it's painful, it's lonely, it's sad. And at the very basic level, whatever you want to call that thing in the universe, I call it love, right? I think
Mhm.
that's pretty, we should all love each other and we should all love ourselves. And I think we get so afraid. And that's why so many of us got tripped up in the pandemic. They don't want to, no one wants to sit in the silence. No
Yeah.
one wants to stop. And so a lot of the busyness is we're running. We don't want to say, okay, am I really happy in this marriage? Am I
Mhm.
really happy in this job? Is this church still good for me or do I need to leave this church?
Yeah.
Like, so I think in every, or is this relationship, is this family member still treating me the way I deserve to be treated?
Mhm.
Whatever that fill in the blank is, it's hard to have those conversations, but it starts, like you said, with that inner being, whatever you want to call it, whoever you want to call it, but you've
Mhm.
got to know that there's something outside of you that can help.
Yeah. Yeah, and you're touching on there something that, just the word that was coming to mind is fear, right? The
Mm-hmm.
fear of confronting what might not be working. Take yourself back to leaving this incredible job that you loved. Was that what was your headspace there? Is it I'm so set and we're done, we're good? Were you scared? Like take yourself back for a minute and if you wouldn't mind sharing where your head was at.
Scariest time of my life.
Scariest
Okay.
time of your life. There you go.
let's just let's just
Yeah.
take the veil off. And
Yeah.
it's scary because at the time, I'm 32 now. I was 31 years old. I knew nothing outside of being on TV every day. And what many people don't know is when you're on TV, you're told a lot of what to be. And I'll just, generally speaking, what to wear, what to say, how to be. And it is very much dictated in your
How to
content.
talk, I imagine.
How to talk,
Yeah.
there's coaches for everything. And that's no matter, that's the industry. That's not based on any station. So imagine for the first time in your life, I grew up the daughter of a politician. My dad's been elected since the day I was born. So even to this day, I've never just been Mikaya, right? So
Mm,
then I get to start making independent decisions that didn't dictate a political campaign or that didn't dictate what a television station was perceived as because my face is hanging in the arena where all the concerts are. So
right.
just that search of or fear, right? That's that. Let me use that word. That fear of going, who the heck am I? What
Mhm.
do I want? And the most prevalent relationship that's really seen that is my boyfriend, because when he met me and I had like a month left at the station.
Mm.
And so I was like, listen, it's great to have you in my life. I think you're fabulous and wonderful, but I'm going to go on this little weird journey for the next little bit, still on it, by the way. And I need you to ride this thing out with me because I don't know where my growth points are. I don't even know really where I'm going, but it was so scary and I didn't have the answers. And so if someone is listening and they feel like, okay, I'm at a growth point, I'm waiting on my answer before I move forward, it's not going to come. You're just going to have to take one step at a time. I didn't know anything other than I wasn't happy. And I always talk about my best friend Eleanor in this situation. A year before I left, I told her I was really unhappy in news. And she said, but what if you quit? And I said, I can't.
Mhm.
I can't. Because that's what we always say. I can't leave that relationship. I can't
Mhm.
to a new city. And she's like, I think you can. And I was like, you don't know what you're talking about. You
Yeah.
just have to be really brave and say you can do anything. And you're no one. And by the grace of family and all these other things, I knew that I would be taken care of. But that fear was heavy,
Yeah.
heavy, heavy.
Was there any aspect of it for you that centered around relevance? I wonder, just being this public face and then leaving, was there any part of you that feared no longer being relevant? That is a straightforward question for you.
Actually, no. So and if TV was my beginning of relevance, it would have been that. But because
Interesting.
my dad is still elected right now, and the reason I don't live in Atlanta is to stay out of that because it's tremendous
Got it.
pressure. My dad was one of the first, or was the first Black man elected statewide in Georgia, like
Wow.
after Reconstruction. So when I tell you it's a whole different world. So it's been too much for me. And I almost wondered, how did I end up in the same thing that I really didn't enjoy growing up, just not ever getting to be off? And so this was like an escape. I never worried. And in fact, my relevance now is more my own. As an influencer, the deals that I can make and the opportunities that are coming to me are bigger because when you work for a television group, they dictate what you can and can't do, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So you almost have to say no to anything that isn't a part of a brand.
Yeah.
And now I can say yes to anything that is a part of who I am. So it's actually, I'm not on TV every day, but I am being more authentic to the things that I actually am passionate about.
Yeah. That's an incredible perspective to have.
Mhm.
And I'm so glad you said it because I think a lot of the community that I run in is, just a lot of content creators, social media influencers, things like that. And you've seen when the big time influencers say, I need to take a step back, I need to stay offline for a week or so. And they all talk about being terrified to do it, or even to just leave their platforms because whatever they're talking about is no longer aligned with them. And it's scary. But I think that your message and your point of really being truly in alignment with yourself is the best feeling you're ever going to have.
I get deals all the time, and I won't name them because the companies follow me, but I get deals all the time. I get deals all the time, and I'm like, what are you talking about? And if we're just talking about, as content creators, it's about money. I get it. It's a business, but like at what cost?
Right.
At what cost? And so part of it, not only does the product align with who I am, but the other part of it, does the timing align?
Right.
I am never afraid. I've had 3 conversations this week where I told people, love this, but I can't right now.
Hmm.
Give me 60 days, give me 3 months, come back to me in early 2024. And I do that because number one, I don't want to overload myself, but also in the sphere of content creation, you can oversaturate your audience.
Yeah.
So if I'm posting a lipstick and a brow pencil and a hair care product,
Right.
everyone's going to go, she's selling me everything all the time.
Yeah.
I've got to intersperse vacations and Mallorca and everything in there. And if I say to 6 brands in 1 week, I'll post all of them, then I am watering down what my value is for a post. So in fact, it's increased my value because to get a post on my page is going to cost you X dollars instead of half of that because I'm doing 5 posts a week.
Putting it everywhere. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's tricky. It's tricky, but you gotta be checking in with yourself, right? Like, you have to it's the opposite of go, go, go. It's like, pump the brakes a minute. Like, assess yourself, assess your calendar, and yeah, I don't know, it's tricky when the platform and the arena that you're in wants to move so quickly. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, our culture just moves so quickly, right? But like when you get specific to online businesses, online platforms, it's like, how fast can you get it out there? How fast can you grow? How fast can you grow viral? It's like, it's a lot of pressure, I think, is what I'm getting at.
It is and like you said, it's the world that's moving fast.
Yeah.
One of the things that I've learned just this year doing yoga and mindfulness is the breath.
Hmm.
and and just how you've got, like, I'm so much better when I just stop and take a breath before I make a decision,
Yeah.
or stop and take a breath before I go to my next activity. And are we stopping and taking a breath on social media or our content creation? Are we reorienting ourselves? Are you seeing a strategy? When I think about what I've learned from our CEO and all the partners at my PR agency in working with the variety of brands, is just listen, timing is everything. It's
Mhm.
everything. But we feel like if I don't post right now, it'll never happen for me. And that's just simply not true. If it doesn't happen this week, it'll happen next week or next month. But I truly believe that if you have that key differentiator, we call it magic sauce at the company, if you've got that magic sauce that makes you so unique and so special that only you can do it, then you will be better than anyone else. No one can speak to Christie's life experience. No one can speak to Mikaya's life experience. So even now, I could have done podcast time I left news. There is a reason why I am waiting right now to chat with you, because I didn't need that right after. I
Right.
needed a break. And
Right.
so I can tell my story anytime. and so
Yeah.
now I'm saying yes to things, and now I'm able to manage it in a way that's healthy for my mental health, because I've done the work in therapy and with my friends and my family to get to a point where I can talk about all of these things.
Yeah. Okay, I have 2 questions from that, and I wanna ask them both so I don't forget them. One is about this magic sauce. Are you actively helping your clients figure out what that is? And if you are, how do you do that? And the second was about, just speaking on, because which I think is such a great point, of surrounding yourself with people, whether it's in the workplace or outside, that value mental health. Does In your experience, the value placed on mental health, how does that spill into your relationships with your clients?
Oh, that's great. Oh my gosh. Okay. So I'll work backwards to get to the brand.
Okay.
How does it spill into my relationship with my clients? It
Mhm.
spills in because when I say I'm off, or when we close for the weekend, we close for the weekend.
There's no, like, texting at 10 p.m., "Hey, this is a fire." Like,
No, there's
yeah.
what fire? If there's an action,
Right,
sure, but
right.
what fire? And it is a rule. So one of the things that I see with my teams, and this is how I work, even to my clients. If I see someone online, that is at an odd hour that I know is outside of their working hours, I'll just say, "Hey, what's going on?" It could have wait till 9 a.m. or what have you. If not, let
Mhm.
me know. Do we
Right.
need to talk about your workload? So it's also just looking at your team. But I think with your clients, it earns respect, because if you're accessible, whether it's a person or a client, all the time to everybody, then I'm going to feel like, oh, Chrissy will answer at 1 a.m. I'll text her now and then she'll respond and I'll get what I need. But if I
Mhm.
know there's a boundary that you have, that I should communicate via email and I should send it during working hours, and that you'll get back to me in 1 to 2 business days, sounds great. That's a boundary that you're creating with how you respond to things. And guess what? In turn, I respect you more and I
Yeah.
respect your time more. So I'm not going to ping you at the last minute for something that I knew about a week ago. When you talk about that magic sauce, do we work through it? Yes, all the time. There are sessions, messaging meetings where we go through. Is that a key differentiator? Sometimes we even ask the honest question, like, "Hey, you said you're the only product that does this. Well, we found two. So what's the difference?"
Psych.
Or you say you're the only person who's doing this. It's
Mhm.
like, or you're the first person who did this. We found three people who did the same thing. So
Right.
we have to make those conversations. And then sometimes, even I think specifically with influencers that I see online, a lot of times they don't want to be really honest with their story.
Yeah.
And that's why I think the mental health segment is almost this huge growth point for content creators, because most people, every content creator, every human needs to talk about mental health. But some people are afraid to share that story about their childhood or their marriage, that they're in marriage counseling. And that vulnerability is what makes us all so special. So in addition to talking about a product, we talk about the person.
Mm.
What makes you different? Tell me your story. Just like I could say, like, imagine this if I was like, my bio is I went to Harvard and I graduated with a 4.0. But my bio is I almost lost my sanity going to, like, because I was doing it all.
Right.
I'm probably the only person that was in the extension school program at Harvard and then on TV at the same time. Now that's a differentiator.
Yeah.
That's an introduction, because everyone's going to lean in and go, "How did
How?
you do that? When did
Yeah.
you see?" Rather than me trying to take the accolade and look shiny and look all these things. So it's my vulnerability and authenticity that makes me special, as well as you special. That's the reason people are listening to this podcast, is because you don't feel like you need to put on airs, like most of the population does. So a lot of times the key to the magic sauce, especially if you're talking about a person over a product, is authenticity and vulnerability.
Mhm. Yeah.
It's hard. Those are the hard things to share, and they have to be, I think, what you would have much more eloquent words to put towards it, given what you do, sharing the story in a way that still respects whatever personal boundaries and ethics you have around it, right?
Mm.
Like, that can be tricky, you know? We don't necessarily wanna go and spill all of our guts or spill guts that, overlap with other people's guts.
Well, you can't, right? So
Right,
if I was married, my marriage would not be a topic of conversation and me telling you what I hate about my spouse or partner.
right.
That's not something, that's not the vulnerability we want. That's toxic that you're doing that. But what I am saying is when you get past a thing in old school Southern church, we call it your testimony. There would be like a testimony service, and you'd be like, overcame this in my childhood. There are things that I can talk about from my childhood that I can say shaped who I am as a human being
Mhm,
that isn't going to hurt anyone, but it's again about timing and when you share it.
mhm.
And also, we can talk about our personal experience without involving others. You can talk about your growth point in a marriage, but you shouldn't talk about your partner's.
Right, right. Yeah, and it's a l I think actually I think what it is and what I'm just processing in real time is that that's a learned skill.
Oh, okay.
I
Yeah.
think we underestimate how much you actually have to learn and practice that, right?
And being on live television for 10 years, you do
Oh,
that.
yeah.
'Cause I got plenty of clips where it was like word vomit or wrong name or inaccurate, right? Because or you weren't paying attention, you don't remember the reporter's name. I mean, there are all these moments that we have, and you learn how to really almost smooth talk a situation. Or it's like, just like I said, I was tripping over a word earlier. I'm like, I don't know why I can't get this word out, acknowledging and moving on.
Mhm.
I think that is a skill set, but that does take training, because the average person, if you sit in silence, which is the most awkward thing, they will word vomit out all their business just
Yeah,
because they're nervous.
yeah.
And you have to be okay saying, I answered the question. Like, I don't need
And
to
put a
tell
period at
my
the end of
grandma.
it.
Right,
Right.
right, right. I don't need to tell any other business beyond that.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, so bringing it a little bit back to you and where you go from here, what do your next avenues of advocacy for mental health, what do they look like? Like, what is your vision with everything that you're starting to talk about and be vocal about?
My next avenue, and this is a really great question. I think I'm living in it right now. So I've always been passionate about mental health, like always. You can ask my mother since I've been younger. In my relationships, in friendships, I'm always advocating for mental health. But me on this platform and using my life experience to say, we're not immune.
Mm,
No one is. I don't care how shiny it looks on the outside. When you dissect my life, if you got a chance to speak to me about my life, not about what's happening in the news, you would find out that I had hard days. I didn't feel like waking up at 3 a.m. I was mad I had to come in and put on a ton of makeup and hair extensions and lashes and all the, and now I can say that. You can't say that when you have to say, good morning, thank you for joining us, my lashes falling off. So that's now what I'm doing. I'm standing in my advocacy and my story and telling it in platforms that I believe in and can trust that the work is already being done. And we'll see what grows. One of the biggest blessings in my life is that God has opened doors one door at a time. So if I told you right now the things that I'm working on, like the specific details, it would blow your mind, but I have to see them through the end of the year at these
yeah,
opportunities that I've been taken. But there are some really big speaking opportunities that I've been asked to be a part of that I just know is going to change the game for so many people. And I'm excited to be able to do that.
awesome. Awesome. Okay, and then, one of the last things I wanna ask you is you've mentioned, quite a few ways that you like to take care of yourself.
Mhm.
Um, how do you actually make it happen? Do you schedule it? Do you what give me, like, the actual, like, day-to-day of how you are working in movement and breath work, like, how do you actually do it?
So I am type A. So yes, I schedule it. Yes,
Okay,
it's coded on my calendar.
okay.
That I'm working on that. Like
Hey, it's working for now. You're doing it.
my boyfriend used to make jokes of like, I know I have to schedule a date 4 days in advance. I'm apologizing now. And so, but I have colors. So when I talk about something for my spirit, it's yellow. And I give the colors just so that way because it brings me joy.
Yeah.
And by that can be church, that can be prayer time, that can be yoga. I call spirit bar class. And most people would put that under exercise, but those feed my spirit. Physical activity feeds my spirit. So that's why I guess it goes back into my belief about the universe and what can feed us and what soul is. I put church in the same category as yoga. So on my calendar, I ensure that I see yellow on a pretty consistent basis. And if I look at a week and I don't see any yellow, I'm like, something has to go. That's preventing that from happening. Okay. Pink is fun. Pink is I'm going to a concert, I'm seeing a friend, we're grabbing lunch, we're grabbing coffee. And that also has to be interspersed. I would say at least 1 to 2 times a week, I have to see that. Same thing for yellow. And then the final category is purple. That really brings me joy. And purple is future. If something is in purple, it is work that I'm doing to increase my growth on this planet. So it could be a podcast. It could be talking to a potential client for the agency. It could be whatever that is. It's like, okay, I'm taking this meeting with the intent of growing. It could be taking a class. It could be going to a conference and learning more about PR or tech. So whatever that case may be, I have to see purple at least 1 to 2 times a week. So as that formula, I'm going to call it, I'm making this up now because I'm in PR, 2 by 2 by 2. That's my key to happiness is twice a week for each of those things. And again, 10 minutes, it could be me watching a TED Talk. That's it. Like, it's like, because TED Talks are 10 minutes and it could be while I'm working out, and then that's a twofer. But as long as I see those twice a week, I'm really in a good place.
Okay. Yeah. I like the colors, and I've dabbled with that a bit because I visually associate things with colors. Like, I just do. Yeah. Even if it's as simplistic as, like, I just joined Orange Theory. I can't put Orange Theory on my calendar without turning it orange, like turning the color black orange, because it just has to work that way for me.
And you feel something when you see it. There's psychological studies that say when you associate things with colors, you just get something by just putting it on the calendar, like an endorphin boost. So it's really great to see that.
And to that point, I really like what you said about sometimes having a physical activity coded as spiritual. And I feel like that is such a mindset shift rather than the dread sometimes, right, of getting our butts up and getting dressed and getting to the class and signing up and doing the work. When you have that shift in perspective of, no, this is feeding my soul, not just my physical body, that'll help with sometimes the needed motivation, I think.
I hate working out. There's nothing that the thought of working out bothers me. I used to get mad at people who would ask me to go to the gym. I don't think I ever went to a gym prior to this year. Like, I'm just telling you, I hate everything
well,
about
you didn't have time. So.
I didn't. When was I going to the gym? But I do think that what I'm getting from the physical activity, we all have health things that happen as we get in our 30s and late 20s and all these things where you go, okay, I need to take care of myself in a better way. But I was really neglectful, really neglectful of myself and my body. I was not taking care of it. And so by me doing this is not something that I can go, oh, I'm double booked and I just won't go for 3 weeks. That can't happen. So it really is a spiritual experience, because when I leave, I feel so fantastic. I feel like I can take on the day, and then I end up sleeping better.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Mikaya, is there any question that you wish I would have asked you that I didn't think to? Any topic or realm of your world that you would have liked me to ask you about?
You nailed it. And as a former professional interviewer, you were fantastic, Christie.
Thank you. Oh my gosh, that's like amazing. Thank you so much.
Get on the news. You were great.
All right. Well, Mikaya, I appreciate you so much. I thank you for your time and the message that you're putting out into this world. It is so needed. So just thank you again for being here.
Love and light to you. Thanks, Christie.
Oh my goodness, what kind words from Mikaya. That is just the ultimate confidence boost to hear from someone who's made a living interviewing people compliment my interviewing skills. Thank you so much. I really want to go back to what Mikaya's really succinct and to the point message is, that happiness is enough. Prioritizing her mental health, making a habit out of doing something to make herself happy each and every day. Sometimes it's small, sometimes it's a 2-hour date with herself, setting boundaries, self-care, letting go of perfectionism. This is what it's all about. And you've got to do what works for you. And this is why we have people on the show that tell us how it works for them, so you can take a little bit of what each person is doing and make it your own. I love that she color codes her calendar. I love color coding. And if you want to give Mikaya's model a try, I'm going to reiterate it here. She uses yellow for spiritual activities. And remember, those can be movement activities too. You can meditate or pray on a walk or while doing yoga. She uses pink for fun, social activities. And while I am one of the first people who can easily push those off, we know how important those real life connections are. She uses purple for future, so anything related to personal or professional growth. And Maya's kind of off the cuff name for this model is 2x2x2. So make sure each of these colors are showing up at least twice a week, and you'll be off to a really great start. No one way that you're going to hear from anyone on the show about how to take care of yourself and prioritize your mental and emotional health is going to work exactly for you. I've learned this the hard way. I wanted someone to come on and tell me exactly how to do these things, but it just doesn't work that way. So take a little bit of Mikaya's, take a little bit of mine, take a little bit of what you've heard from previous guests on the show and make them your own. Try her 2x2x2 method. Tweak it for what works for you. Just the point is that we can talk and talk and talk about prioritizing ourselves, but until we actually do it, it really doesn't mean anything. And I say that with so much love because I'm the first person that needs that reminder. So, Mikaya, thank you so much for being here today. Chatting with you, getting to know you made me so happy. And thank you for listening. I'll catch you next time. Bye. Thanks so much for listening. This podcast is a production of Luann Nigara, Inc. To learn more about me, my world, all the things going on, head over to ChristieRocha.com. Bye.